conversation. It wasn't happening.
It's going to be very hard for a rookie to come in and beat Jimmy Garoppolo out. He's a very good player, and that's why I like the situation that we are in. Now, we'll see where Trey's at. We'll see how he does in OTAs. I love that we're getting those. I love that he's going to come here tomorrow. We're going to be able to talk to him in person. But Jimmy's our quarterback right now.
Jimmy G did lead the Niners to a Super Bowl. Whatever, Stephen A. Don't be disrespectful and don't be rude. Hi, Dan Orlovsky. Dan, I really enjoyed you guys on Get Up this morning. You and Al and RC. The show was a lot of fun. All right, Stephen A., I'll start with you. Yeah. Should Jimmy G have to compete with Lance?
Not at all. He should be traded. Matter of fact, I'm shocked he's not going already. I'd be surprised if he still remained around by the end of this weekend. He should be gone. Jimmy Garoppolo is not wanted in San Francisco. Kyle Shanahan just looked into the cameras and lied to the American public. I'm not faulting him for it. I understand where he's coming from because the guy is your quarterback until he's no longer your quarterback. But Kyle Shanahan does not want Jimmy G to be his quarterback any longer. Kyle Shanahan doesn't have faith in Jimmy G any longer. That's the reality of the situation. Now, a big reason to that would be the fact that Jimmy G has completed 4 seasons in San Francisco, essentially, really 3.5, because he came there with about 5 games left the first go round. Jimmy G has played in 30 games. 30 games as the San Francisco 49ers. 30 games out of a possible 53, 54 games, whatever the number is, because you got those 3 complete seasons. He's essentially missed 2 seasons for the San Francisco 49ers. And even when he's been there, although they've won games, you've got to rely on everybody. You got to the Super Bowl because you had the number 1 defense in the National Football League. You had an elite secondary. You had Bosa leading an incredible pass rush. You had a stout running game with Monster, Tevin Campbell, and those boys. And then on top of it all, you had George Kittle, and you had the play calling of Kyle Shanahan. And I lean on the greatness of Steve Young, the former 49ers great and Hall of Famer, who came on my show, Stephen A's World, the other day. And he highlighted how when you're the head coach, you want to be able to trust the quarterback will protect you. You don't want to have to preoccupy yourself with wondering whether he can protect you, and you got to extend yourself protecting him from himself. You need to know he can protect you. That's not how Kyle Shanahan views Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo needs to go because he's not wanted. And why would you want Trey Lance around a guy that's on his way out where a clear statement has been made, you're not wanted here any longer? Why would you even want to subject Trey Lance to that kind of environment? Get rid of Jimmy G by the weekend if you can and move on.
Well, why subject Patrick Mahomes to the kind of environment when they're sending a message to Alex Smith that they don't want him around anymore? Because you're trying to win a Super Bowl. And the first season, you think Alex Smith gives you the best chance, but long-term, you think Mahomes does. Look, let me just say, Dan knows better than we do. You're always competing for everything in the NFL. I'm not saying there's no competition, but so let's get past that, okay? Like, we know what we're talking about here. No, they shouldn't compete. The job should be Jimmy Garoppolo's, and I'll tell you why. When you look at this Niners team, they look good. They look good on paper. And the last time they were intact, although there's been turnover, but the last time they were intact, they were in the Super Bowl. And Shanahan, Mina Kimes was on the show yesterday, Dan, talking about, look, I don't know about Shanahan's quarterback evaluation, but as a play caller, he's brilliant. And he dialed up the right play. Right. Jimmy G missed it. Maybe next time he hits it. But they were 1 pass away from beating Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs from Mahomes' only Super Bowl. 1 pass away, just missed overthrew Emmanuel Sanders. So you can win a Super Bowl with Jimmy G. I think that doesn't prove to me you can't. It proves to me you can. You think he's going to miss that throw every time? He can't ever hit that throw? Okay. So then the question becomes, what do you do with Trey Lance? Well, here's where Trey Lance could be dangerous. He has maybe the most upside in the draft, tremendous upside. Maybe they think they got another Patrick Mahomes. But if he's good enough to bump Jimmy G, let me just tell you something. You're not going to win a Super Bowl with a rookie quarterback. At least it's never happened before. So why not model this after the last time this really worked? You had a good veteran quarterback who is clearly capable of being a quarterback on a playoff team. In Garoppolo's case, I believe winning a Super Bowl. You keep him there, especially when you have a guy with enormous upside, but maybe the highest ceiling and the lowest floor because he's inexperienced. Get him that experience for a year, holding the clipboard. Look, Jimmy G might get hurt, and then Trey Lance, it solves itself. But if not, Trey Lance then takes over a team which should be a Super Bowl contender this year with Jimmy G. going forward in the best scenario, best of all worlds situation. I think you keep Jimmy G, and he's the starter.
Yeah, I think they compete for the job, but I also think it's Trey Lance's job to lose. I think he's got the leg up on Jimmy Garoppolo strictly intelligence-wise. As a quarterback, I think he's a smarter quarterback, and Kyle Shanahan values that. Now, Stephen A., to your point with the trade with Jimmy G, the only problem is I don't see a lot of suitors. The only one that makes potential sense in my brain for Jimmy G to get traded to would be the Houston Texans with a little bit of the unknown situation they have at the quarterback spot. So that's the one that only makes sense, like, viability-wise. I think this is where I stand with the 49ers today in this situation, because they are in a challenging one now that they've taken Trey Lance. The biggest thing for Trey is development, right? They've got to develop this young, talented, physically talented player. Now, the challenge to do that at quarterback is you need reps to do it. I think Trey Lance needs to play, okay? Trey Lance threw 318 passes in college. That is the least amount of passes a quarterback has thrown in college that was taken in the first round in 40 years. The only guy in the last 15 years of the draft that was drafted in the first round at quarterback that has less than 500 attempts in college is Mark Sanchez. He threw for 487. So you got to get Trey Lance on the field and get him the reps, because that's the only way to get better as a quarterback. That's the only way to develop as a quarterback. Now, the challenge is they have the burden of winning football games in San Francisco as well. And that's a big reason why a lot of the young quarterbacks fail in the NFL, is because they're expected to develop while also winning football games on Sunday. And when winning becomes more than development, because that's the NFL is about winning, you'll always revert to your bad habits, your old habits that are your flaws. And I think that's going to be a huge challenge for San Francisco, is how do we develop this young player but not completely burden him with the, hey, you have to win at all costs?
You can say that. I'm not disagreeing with that. What I'm debating with you guys is that based on what you're crystallizing, of course, you know what? Trey Lance needs to develop. It's his job to lose. We traded three first round picks and a third round pick to get the guy. I understand that. What I'm saying to y'all is the fact that you did it, what does it say? I understand, for example, Aaron Rodgers is a veteran and Trey Lance is a rookie, hasn't even taken an NFL snap yet. I understand the difference, but I'm just talking about from a human element perspective. What are we debating? We're talking about the message being sent to you by an organization, how you've been treated, etc. Now, in Jimmy Garoppolo's case, he can't shine Aaron Rodgers' shoes. He doesn't have a leg to stand on, particularly because of his absence due to injury on so many occasions. But the bottom line is the coach and the organization, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, traded 3 first-round picks and a third-rounder. If that ain't saying, I don't want you, what does? Well, they don't want him. And so as a result, what I'm saying is, sure, Max, Dan, you got to be able to get something for him. You don't just give him away. I understand that. All I'm trying to say is that by what you have done, you have clearly stated you are not the future.
Yeah, but Stephen A., you have said.
That's all I'm saying.
Stephen A., you have said it's because the best ability is availability, and he hasn't been available. They don't trust he can stay on the field. Okay, that doesn't mean he doesn't necessarily start. Now, let me just say something about this. Dan, you talk about I don't know who would want him. Take the Washington football team, right? Who's their quarterback? Like Fitzmagic is a nice, Fitzy. You think Fitzy is better than Jimmy G? Well, if he is, let me ask you this, because here's one way to test it.
I had a question for you, Max.
Here's one way to test it. Look at the team's record with Fitzy at quarterback and compare it to the team's record with whatever other quarterback was on the roster at the time. Because Jimmy G, just so people know, if you think he's just about replacement level, he is 24-8 lifetime as a starter for the same exact team that goes 7-26 when he doesn't start. It reverses itself. Max, you lose almost every game he doesn't start. So to act as though he's just replacement level or a tick above is plainly untrue.
Max,